Hello, my fellow horse lovers. Hey, it's Wednesday in the arena with Dr. Pamela. Welcome to my private arena. For those of you who don't know me, I help horse owners get their anxious, reactive, and previously traumatized horses calm, cool, and connected. Today we are not in the arena. It is pouring rain. We're having flash flood warning. So we're going to do it from the tack room. And today we have another horse welfare issue on the horizon. I just saw this in the news. The Chronicle of the Horse has an article that was just published yesterday. And the United States Equestrian Federation announces welfare initiatives in response to Chromatic BF's death. So, 4 months after the death of U.S. show jumper Chromatic BF at the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup final, the U.S. Equestrian Federation has acknowledged that medications administered by a Federation veterinarian likely contributed to the gelding's death and has announced several new horse welfare initiatives that were championed by this horse's owner and breeder. So, according to a Tuesday statement from USEF, these are the three new initiatives. One, revisions to the horse participation consent agreement. Two, continuing education for USEF team veterinarians. And three, establishment of a research program in Chromatic BF's name to promote a better understanding of sport horse welfare and encourage scientific research to improve the lives and well being of our high performance equine athletes. And I'm like, oh my goodness, so much to say about this. But here's the thing, folks, it's not rocket science. I like why do we have to set up a research foundation to know that it's I say it all the time, it's not what we do, it's how we're doing it. So if we're having to give these horses excessive amounts of drugs and pharmaceuticals to get them shown, what is that telling us? Right? It's not about the showing. It's like what we're doing, what we're asking of these animals. And so in an effort that I don't go off on my tangent high horse, pun intended, maybe a little, I just want to share with you today 3 things that you can do right now with your horse, right, to avoid drugs and pharmaceuticals so that your horse doesn't have to be loaded down and turn up dead. Like this horse died. He went into seizures shortly after they administered these drugs. So, I say it all the time. Reduce the chemicals. My number one thing on the list, reduce the chemicals. Um, if your horse has an emergency, like a colic or something, and does need to have some pharmaceuticals, because they are necessary at times, if your horse isn't already overloaded with excess chemical wormers, excess vaccinations, the list goes on, if when we have a health crisis with a horse or an animal and we go into it with a healthy horse and a healthy animal, because this applies to all animals and human animals too, right, then they come out the other side better, faster, and alive, as we can see in Chromatic BF's instance. He did not come out of it alive. So please start thinking of ways you can reduce chemicals. I have lots of trainings on this. I talk about it all the time. It can start with as simply as stop using chemical fly sprays, right? Look at the ingredients in your feeds. Are that you feeding synthetics to your horses? Do you even know if you're feeding synthetics in your horse feed? Number two, don't use metal shoes on your horses. It reduces the blood flow in their feet by 50%. So people who say my horse can't go without shoes, It's not because the shoes are fixing the underlying issue, it's because it's masking it because your horse can't feel its feet. Um, the the barefoot trimmer that I trained with many moons ago and still turn to for advice when trimming my own feet that I've been doing now for over 10 years. He told me one time, and I've never forgotten this. He's like, if your horse can't or won't jump a 5 foot oxer without shoes, then maybe we shouldn't be jumping 5 foot oxers, right? Like, if these horses weren't doing more and more and more and asking for bigger and bigger and bigger and doing all these extremes, like, oh, a 15-foot slide isn't big enough. We need a 30-foot slide. Like, we can't just jump a 4.5 foot oxer. We have to jump a 5.5 foot oxer. Like, we're always wanting more, more, more. So, reducing things like that and helping the blood flow in your horse's feet helps with everything, right? That's the whole saying, no foot, no horse. It comes from something. It's not just BS. The third thing, like, we don't need to do research on this. Movement. Movement doesn't mean, oh, my horse gets lunged or ridden. Movement. They need to be out and moving on their own, and they're not going to do that in a sand arena. They have no reason to move around in a sand arena. They need to be out in the open spaces and have a reason to walk around. My horses go out on, I don't know if it's 10 acres or so. I don't know the exact measurement. They go out every day, except now. They were out all morning. They ran into the barn when it started thundering and lightning. But I watch them. And even in the winter when it's like 20 below, if it's not like terribly awful out and not too much snow, I will let them out in the pasture, and they walk up and down the hill and back and forth all day long. They're doing something. In the wild, horses can walk up to 30 miles a day. Nobody can ride their horse 30 miles a day unless you don't do anything else, okay? So at any rate, like, I don't feel we need to have a research program to know that horses need movement, right? They need to have reduced chemicals, and we know that metal shoes are not the best for the horses. The Swedish have been the forefront in this and doing some high level showing in the Olympics and such in barefoot horses, which is amazing. These people that say, oh, my horse can't go barefoot. Well, we need to look at, like, is your horse nutritionally balanced? Is your horse's feet balanced? Like, there's a difference between barefoot trimming and trimming a horse to prepare it for a shoe. Big difference. So some of this stuff is just, I don't think, is rocket science. We don't need to research it. It's just basic, holistic horse care that we need to be implementing more. And we need to start asking the question. It's not what we're doing, but how we're doing it. If these horses are dying from being injected with drugs from a licensed veterinarian, then I think we need to start questioning this. There are lots of things we can do in place of it, and it starts with just basic horse care. Healthy horses will come out of health crisis better, faster, and alive. So until next week, enjoy your horse.